Yeah.
You have a good drive, Andy?
Hear that now? Yes, yes. We're just down in Oceanside.
Oh, okay.
Well, I don't know.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, Lacey.
I'm connected on one device, but it has horrible sound, and so I'm trying to get connected on another. And so I'm trying to find the agenda and email to find the Zoom list. Oh, I know where it is. It's on the website.
Board members, if you could go into your Zoom, just click on the three, hover over your image and click on the three dots. And under rename, just add board member there to help signal for the rest of the community. Or I guess mine's too long, it goes off, I guess, but rename that, I guess, shorten it.
Not disobeying. I just don't see that option on the phone, just so you know.
I hear you. It may not be possible on the phone. That's okay. Well, we can give folks maybe just another minute or two.
Andrew, I'm on, but I have no sound at the moment. Everybody sounds like they're in the shower.
Well, at least everyone sounds like what?
They're in the shower.
Oh, okay.
It's I forgot my iPad. It has a broken speaker, and so it's not just a software glitch. I've got to try and move to another machine, and my work machine prohibits Zoom, and we're told we'll hunt you down and find you if you try it.
We don't want that.
Here it is. So you have to go to the agenda to get the Zoom address.
Hi, Mark.
Hi, hope everyone's doing well.
Mark, you might notice the other board members, we've tried to go in, and if you hover over your image and click on the three dots, and you can go to rename. If you just want to, if you could add board member to your name so the rest of the community can see that. And Trevor got it done. And Lisa, we can give you another minute or two. Just let us know when you're ready.
Okay. I can hear. It's just
Oh,
not
okay.
nuanced.
Well, with that, we can call the meeting to order at 6:18 p.m. And Lisa, you're the acting secretary, so you can take the minutes and get the roll call here. If it may be good to have people go into the chat and just say if they are here. Just some of the names may not be accurate, representing who is actually in the meeting. Hit the chat at the bottom. If you just click chat to all and say your name, that'll help Lisa get everyone's name in the minutes. And while we're doing that, I can mention that what will be first on the agenda, I guess after we get the roll call, is the time for public comments. So during that time, we have some rules for those comments that the time for each speaker will be limited to 3 minutes. And it might be best to kind of have an order. So as the chats come in with names, after you enter the chat with your name, if you'd like to say something during the public comments, if you don't mind putting another chat entry in there as well, and then I can call on a person.
Hey, you guys need to keep it down.
So I guess,
Okay,
what's that, Lisa?
for board members. I have to try to get it uses so much bandwidth that it kills the sound. I was just trying to get roll call for board members. So we have Andrew, we have Lisa, we have both Andrews, we have Mark. Do we have Lacey?
Yes.
We have Lacey. We have Trevor. Yes. We have Mark Seaman. Do we have Anki? Okay.
I don't see
Okay.
him.
Okay, and then we have a new board member. Is there a new board member here?
I don't think we have any new members yet.
Okay. Okay, I think I got everybody now.
Okay.
Sorry
Well,
for the sound.
if anyone else is new, I will just mention again, this is the time for public comment. So if you have comments that you would like to share now with the board, this would be the time. And if you do, please just go into the chat and say, I'm ready to make a comment, and I'll call on you if there are more than one commenter. If there is more than one commenter. It appears there are no commenters. Yes, there will be time. Sorry, I see your question, Patrick. There is time for questions in response to things on the agenda. Oh, Andrew is shaking his head no.
The procedure would be that if you have questions or comments as a public member, you would make them now. We, of course, I'm happy to answer any questions after my presentation or after this meeting. You can send them directly to me and I'll respond to you. But since this is a public board meeting, any public comments or questions would have to be made during that time, during this beginning time.
Sorry, thank you for that correction, yes. So this is a regular board meeting, but we are on the agenda. We are looking at the possible learning models that will come into play this year. And that'll be a presentation that Andrew will be giving. Okay. Well, I haven't seen anyone raise their hand to say they would like to give a public comment. So I think without delaying any further, we can proceed with, pardon?
I'll also say to everyone who's here, for those of you that filled out the thought exchange or sent in an email to info@thegrove.org, all that information was shared with the board. So they received all the comments that you guys put in there. So they do have that information that you shared.
Thank you.
Patrick, you're asking about sharing the numbers. Is that just the number of people that requested distance learning, or is that something else?
Yes, Andrew, it's all three distance learning, all three variables that we had to choose from.
Okay. It was about a 70-30 split. As far as that goes, about 70% wanted to return in person and 30% wanted distance learning only.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Any other public comments? Okay. It appeared, yes, are you raising your hand, Susan?
Sure, why not?
Okay.
You might have this in your presentation anyway. I'm just curious about number one, how beholden we are to various government agencies of following guidelines. And I mean, I'm happy with whatever answer you have. We're willing to accept it. And the other question I'm curious about, and this might be in your presentation, is how much flexibility is there to change between different models as things change around us? So we're in a bit of a surge of COVID cases. If that goes way down, do we have a flexibility to move? And as a teacher, I so understand that switching between models as a student might be a lot easier than switching between models as a teacher. So again, I'm willing to accept various answers there too.
Yeah, I do address both of those in the presentation.
Okay. Well, I'm not seeing anyone else in the chat signaling for public comments. So I think we can proceed with our next agenda item, which is items appearing on the agenda. Well, that's what we just did. Items not appearing on the agenda. Any comments from the board?
Andy, we do have another question from.
Oh, there it is. Yes, sir. It says, from Gonzalez family to everyone, I have a question with the issue with special ed and distance learning. Might need a more, okay, Andrew's responding.
I also addressed special ed in the presentation. But any individual questions about specific students, you can just make an appointment and let us know.
And thank you to everyone just up front for bearing with us as we manage a lot of people in Zoom. All right, well, it sounds like we want to get to that presentation. I think that will be good. So moving on to the agenda, approval of the agenda as presented or amended. The board members have thoughts on that or ready to make a motion?
I'm ready to make a motion to approve it.
Okay, Trevor made the motion. Anyone ready for second?
I'll
second.
I think Mark got in there first. We'll give Mark the second. Any discussion on that? Okay. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, same. Okay, it looks like the motion carries. The next item is, are there board members missing? There's a question, I guess, but we're moving on into the agenda. We don't have any missing tonight. That's correct. I don't know if Lisa's cutting out. The next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes of June 29th, that meeting. Are there any thoughts from the board on the minutes, or are people ready to make a motion to approve?
I'll move to accept as presented.
Okay. Lacey seconded. Mark made the motion. Lacey seconded. Any discussion? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? And the motion carries. Well, great. We can move on now to the presentation on the possible learning models for 2020-2021.
All right. Well, hi, everybody. It's good to see some of you. It has been a lonely and quiet summer here in the office. I have an opening statement that I'm going to kind of go through before I share my screen of my PowerPoint and kind of just walk through the plan. First and foremost, teachers, students, and parents in the community in general, we want students back in school, but we need to do this in a way that is safe. July 17th, just this last Friday, Governor Newsom announced that students will not be able to physically return to school until a county has been off the COVID-19 watch list for at least 14 consecutive days. This announcement reflects the guidance that the CDC, California Health Department, and San Bernardino County Department of Health have been issuing throughout the pandemic. This is guidance that is given with the health and safety of students and staff and communities in mind. The plans that have been developed by Grove are flexible so that when students can return, we do it easily and accommodate many different scenarios and the different needs of our community. The distance learning program that we've designed is not the same that was offered this past spring. We reviewed the feedback we received from stakeholders and have created a plan for a robust academic program that is the best educational experience that we can offer at this time. Using outside organizations such as BYU High School Online to supplement our teachers' curriculum, we will help provide teachers with online assignments and support to help them maintain high academic standards. It will also give the staff more time to focus on providing help for those students who need more individual attention. When students do return, we've developed plans so that families who wish to continue distance learning, even if in-person learning is offered, can do that. The hybrid model was developed in order for Grove to provide in-person instruction in the safest way possible and meet the guidelines set by the CDC for 6-foot distancing, small cohorts, and provide small group instruction when appropriate. Come August 24th, we will be ready to provide a strong academic instruction through distance learning that provides appropriate support and intervention. When it becomes safe and allowable to do so, we'll be ready to open our campus back up to students in a hybrid model, whether it be 1 day a week or more days a week. And so with that being stated, I will walk us through my magical, exciting presentation that started in the middle. There it is. All right. So the whole goal of this plan, and board members, this is a presentation to you, so feel free to ask me questions as I go, is to kind of provide guidance, right? This is the overview of the plan. There are specifics that still need to be worked out. Once we know that this is our plan, we start developing student schedules, we can tweak it to make it even better. But it's founded in health and safety. That is the number one goal of this, is to make sure that we keep our students and our faculty and our community safe and healthy during this time. It has flexibility, right? It's designed with the idea that we will be moving in between from distance learning to in-person learning and back again. And so that is kept in mind. And if we can find a better way to do that, we will change it. It is subject to change. Along with the governor's announcement, he also issued another set of guidelines. They are very, very similar to the guidelines that were released before. But once again, we do need to follow those state and federal guidelines. We will need to adopt a semester system. One, this is going to allow more staff and student interaction and live instruction during grading periods. With limited live interaction or limited in-person interaction, having a longer grading period instead of the 13-week trimester, having the 19-week semester will simply allow more interaction between students and teachers during that grading period. It's also easier to adopt a learning model and to transfer in between the two programs if we have this. So here it is, the all distance learning, the hybrid model. I shared the draft plans with the whole community. There is a big full reopening plan that is modeled after Redlands Unified and works in conjunction with MIR's plan. I've shared that with the board. It will be posted on the website either tonight or tomorrow. And it kind of gives a little more detail. I will also say that behind all of these plans, behind the hybrid model and behind the distance learning model is our charter plan, which is 5-day regular instruction. That is there and it can be modified or go through as it is in the charter. We will offer that distance learning program for all families who want it throughout this year. We can return to in-person instruction when San Bernardino County is off the COVID watch list for 19 days. These are the highlights of this distance learning program. As we kind of walk through it, the daily instruction, daily live instruction. So the state regulations, AB 77 and Senate Bill 98, require students have 240 minutes of instruction a day, with at least 1 hour of that being live instruction. The other 3 hours can be based on the work they do. So this will allow them to attend a live instruction class twice a week. There's time for small group, there's office hours. One of the biggest things that we got in our feedback was the desire for families, for students and parents to have regular scheduled time in which to communicate with teachers. So that is a big part of building into the schedule. There's 2 periods a day, and then there's lots of time for office hours and intervention. So there's time in there for this to be structured. Special education services can be provided during live instruction in breakout rooms. We can also set up other methods of independent meetings during the office hours with special ed staff. We can also have possibly small group instruction and provide some special ed services in person when it's possible. It wasn't totally clear from the state if we can do that now, if we have to wait. It sounds like they're still trying to figure that one out, if schools will be able to offer that while we're closed. We'll also offer technology, of course, throughout this to any families that need it, whether it be Chromebooks or other technology that may be needed. Here's just the schedule, just the regular week. You can see where the periods are spread out, so the students have each class throughout the week. Teachers will have their regular scheduled prep period, which is another time when they can work with students individually if that works better in the student schedule or in the parent schedule. So 4 hours with the small group intervention at the end, with certain days dedicated to small group intervention, just so, once again, more regularly scheduled. Just because there isn't science small group on Tuesday doesn't mean there can't be science small group on Tuesday. It's just scheduled this way to make it known when those things can happen. Any questions sort of about that, about the distance learning model from the board?
Yeah, I have a question, Andrew. The office hours, I guess this model is going to present some challenges in terms of um, teachers interacting with students. I'm wondering, is the office hours at the student's initiation that, hey, it requires the student to speak up, or is there some mechanism for the teachers to be initiating that? Can you provide a little more color on that?
Yeah, I can absolutely. We are building an intervention plan. So the state, part of the learning continuity and attendance plan that we'll have to submit before September 30th requires us to have a 3-step intervention plan so that we are monitoring and watching students when they drop off, either academically or by attendance. And so we're kind of working on that plan. So the school will be reaching out to those students who are either missing their live instruction or not turning in their assignments. And then we have these times throughout the day in which we can provide either extra help or one-on-one help or whatever it is that's determined that these students will need. It is also an opportunity for students to reach out to teachers. It provides time during the day in which teachers are able to respond when they're not scheduled to be teaching classes, but they can respond to students or parents with questions.
And I guess one other question, PE, I imagine, would be a particular challenge in a distance learning setup. Are there special accommodations planned for that?
Yeah, so PE looks like it's gonna be very similar to an independent study model in which the students would complete hours, and those hours would be signed off either by a professional trainer or possibly by their parents, and then they would have a regular check-in with the PE teacher to sort of review their hours or possibly receive some health education or something like that at a scheduled time. So that's sort of the independent study model. There hasn't been any direct guidance from the state on physical education yet.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the board on the distance learning? Andy?
Andrew, so when it says like period 1, period 2, does that represent live instruction?
Yes, that would represent the live instruction. So it's a regular schedule. They don't have every class every day or classes 4 times a week. On our old schedule, it would just be twice a week. For some seniors, it might be tricky to spread their schedule out to make sure they're getting that 1 hour of live instruction a week, but that'll be a few students. It won't be a big problem. 1 hour a day, sorry. All right. The hybrid model, when we constructed this model, we did a lot of measuring and looking at the physical space. And then we actually started with the physical space and how can we actually achieve 6 foot of distancing and how many students can we have on campus to do that. We determined that the Barton Schoolhouse is really the only facility that we have that's large enough to have a class that is worth having, not just a couple students at the high school or just a couple students in the farmhouse, where we can still have 6 feet of distancing. A lot of people commented in the July thought exchange asking about outdoor spaces. We are looking at using outdoor spaces. However, we can't count on having outdoor spaces. So we certainly would be using any outdoor space that we could, weather permitting. We're going to have them in smaller cohorts, basically to limit exposure. The staff will still need to work with all the cohorts at their grade level, but the students would be limited in their exposure to other students. And then as things develop, the idea would be to have students on campus more than 1 day a week and sort of maximize that time. The language in the July 17th requirements still uses 6 feet, but it also uses the phrase maximize space. So depending on how things are going, it may be safe to bring in more students, allowing us to have students on campus more than 1 day a week. There'll be a seat put into a cohort, so you can sort of see the weekly schedule down below for when the different cohorts would be coming on. And then they'll be engaged when they're not on campus in Zoom, Google Meet or Zoom or online classes during those times. So it would be distance learning for the 4 days a week that they're not on campus. And then that 1 day they'd come in. It'll have traditional start times, 8 to 2:30. Some students may need to stay a little bit later or come a little bit earlier depending on what they're doing on campus. Sort of see the rotations. It is confusing, and I know to look at that rotation map for the high school. That is the different live instruction classes that would be happening. So you can see, just as an example, it's a 3-week rotation. So they would have live instruction, in-person instruction, not live instruction, in-person instruction for each class 3 days a week. They will have live instruction through distance learning twice a week for each class, if you count that in-person instruction. So it sort of rotates through. With students, obviously they'll be assigned a day in a cohort, and then they'll sort of have their week on which classes they'll be attending each week, whether it's an A, B, C week. At the middle school, it's a little more straightforward. 7th and 8th graders, they all take the same 4 core classes. Math can be a little bit tricky, but it's a few individuals in 7th and 8th grade who are taking the higher high school level math classes, but we are able to kind of make those accommodations and have those high school teachers on campus to work with those small groups. That is the race through the hybrid model. Any questions from the board just sort of about that hybrid model?
Well, there was a question in the chat earlier. I'm not sure was addressed. Will attendance be taken for distance learning?
Yeah, so we are required to take attendance. We have to track students. The difference this year compared to previous years is attendance is not tied to our funding. Our funding is the same as our 2019-2020 funding. So while we are tracking students' attendance, it's not for funding purposes, it's not for required attendance. Instead, it's to track their progress and to make sure we are doing everything that we can to get those students to engage in school.
And then the times that they are in this hybrid model, the times that they're not on campus, then it would be similar to the distance learning type of schedule.
Yeah, it's a little different, and I'm still working on that. I would love to use a period model for the hybrid model. It just gets tricky because we don't have necessarily the space, and we're not able to get the teachers. So if we do a period, period 1, there might be 10 kids from one math class, but only 2 from another math class, right, in that period 1. So is it beneficial for them to only have 2 students, or is it better to do it in this where we spread it out and they have more students to work with? And that's something that, we will continue to look at and work on. But the hybrid, the online live classes will sort of be scattered throughout the day. But it'll still be within regular school hours. All live instruction, all teacher meetings will be regular school hours between 8 and 3:30.
I see another chat question. How will senior projects be affected?
Well, our key experiences we want to continue, and we certainly want to encourage the senior projects this year. It'll go back into sort of that required, and they'll be working with Ms. O'Brien, our senior project advisor, on putting those projects together. One of the unfortunate parts of this is a lot of seniors did things with other students, whether it be teaching mini courses or planning campouts or other activities on campus. So it'll be a little bit more difficult if a senior is looking to do something like that. It's still possible, right, for seniors to still have those opportunities. It is just going to look different. So Miss O'Brien will start working with those seniors. I know a few have already contacted her with questions.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Andy.
You probably have thought this through. Just I don't know if it was specifically talked about, but is there any special consideration for students who will be first year students at the Grove? Whether there is or isn't, what was the thinking there?
The plan is, now that I have or will have this out of the way, not that we're ever going to stop working on it, but then it's going to be to reach out to the new families. Some of you have been around long enough where you remember when we did the one-on-one meetings. We're going to reach out to new families and ask them if they want to do one of those sit-down one-on-one meetings, obviously not in person, whether it be a phone call or over a Zoom chat, just to give them the opportunity to ask their questions and for us to present the school a little bit more with them. And then we'll still have an orientation week. Our two level coordinators, Mel and Amy Nottingham, are currently putting together an orientation week schedule. So that first week of school, we won't actually have classes starting August 24th. It'll just be orientation, getting equipment out to students, training students on how to use the different systems, and then as well as reaching out to those new students and having the mentors make those connections with them.
Can you address the normal features of the school that won't be happening next year? Like, for example, sports are gone, I assume, physical education, mini courses. What is not surviving? What is not?
Well, I will start by saying I like to think of this as temporary. I think that this is a reset. I know other people have said that. It's hard to reset, but I think this is an opportunity. Things that we are not planning on doing are field trips. Sports right now, CIF made their announcement today saying that they are not having a fall season. They will be doing a 2-season year. So they're going to have a winter season and a spring season and put all the sports in that time. So they're optimistic that they'll be able to have sports and competition starting again probably in January, if not late December. If that happens, Grove will evaluate our ability to participate in that. Mini courses are something that we've always enjoyed for about 13 years now. And they are not on our schedule, but there is certainly time in the afternoon for those mini courses to occur. So during that intervention time, it is possible for there to be mini courses if there's teachers willing or students willing to sign up or teach those classes. That is one of the flexibility parts of this schedule. We just aren't scheduling them because we want to make sure that we have enough time for that intervention. The farm work will look a little bit different. It'll sort of depend on the regulations for having small groups of students on campus. We are hoping to relaunch our summer volunteer days and have students come out on Fridays in small groups and work with Susie on different projects and Peter on different projects around the campus, which is another great way for new families to come in. We're just not sure if we're allowed to do that as of right now. We do have, trying to go through, did I miss any programs that you might think or have questions about?
I presume theater is postponed.
Theater, we will still offer drama, and we may offer high school drama. Our arts teachers are very creative, as you can imagine. So we have between Carrie Morgan, who teaches our middle school theater, and Beth Elliott, who of course has been our high school director for a long time, or full feature, full production director for a long time, and then Esther, our choir teacher, and Nicole Perez, our middle school music or instrumental teacher. They actually have been brainstorming different ways to keep those art programs going. I have no intention of not having those programs in some form or another. Obviously, our choirs won't be able to get together and sing, but you know, they are talking about doing recordings at home and putting things together, if not getting together over Zoom. But having those programs continue, I think, is very important.
Activities and clubs.
Yeah, the activities and clubs, once again, that flexibility time in the afternoon or during office hours is an availability. Once we get, if we are in the hybrid model, you know, that opens up all sorts of other open time because we really are only offering 1 or 2 in-person lessons for academic classes at a time. So while students are on campus, there's actually lots of time for them to get together and work through clubs and other activities. All physically distanced and, you know, safely. I see the question pop up about changes in faculty. I'm a little behind on making those announcements. We did hire a new middle school math teacher to teach 7th grade math and geometry. His name is Mark Delaney. He comes to us from the Banning Unified School District. We hired a new physics teacher, Victoria. I'm gonna butcher her last name because it's a beautiful Russian name. Kornikov, I want to say. She comes to us with a PhD and some teaching experience back in Russia.
I saw in the comments, the feedback, there was one comment of someone volunteering and having credentialing in science. Mm-hmm. Is that something you'll be pursuing?
Maybe, I don't know. They didn't identify who they were, so I will do my best. If we have a position or a need, we'll certainly put it out there. Right now, I don't see a need for more faculty. But once again, as we move forward and we have our faculty doing what they need to do, because you know they haven't done this. We haven't run a full distance program like this, and we definitely haven't run a hybrid program. So we are, you know, flexible and ready. So just while we're doing hybrid, we will have that distance learning. This is gonna, once again, it's all gonna be scheduled and designated. That's something that, you know, was loud and clear, and not only from the parents and students, but also from the faculty, just having a more organized program with more of a schedule. It's going to involve frequent communication. There will be grades, there will be progress reports, students will be evaluated in their classes, and then we will continue to do, you know, the social emotional learning through our mentor program. So this is just our in-person offerings. Once again, if people want to stay home, they certainly can and still be part of the growth community. Once again, it's going to be classroom-based rigor. It's going to be high level, and then be able to run simultaneously with that hybrid in-person instruction. If we do go back to a full day, 5-day-a-week program this year, we will have to relook at our distance learning program and how we can accommodate it while having everyone back. But that'll be a wonderful bridge if we get to cross it this year. This is just sort of when those distance learning lessons will be going on. So this is in conjunction with the hybrid model. So you can see at the middle school up here at the top, there is a, the online live lessons are all in the afternoon, and that's because the middle school teachers would be teaching in person in the morning. And so they would be able to do the live online lessons in the afternoon. So that means the cohorts that aren't at school, they would have these lessons in the afternoon on the days that they're not at school. And then down at the bottom, the high school one is a little bit more complex because of the number of classes that are offered. And still office hours in the middle of the day for them to check in. And then Friday would be a whole check-in with their mentor and others as needed.
The option to do distance learning, if there is on-campus instruction, is that option open only to students or also to faculty?
Right now, it would be only to students. If there was a faculty member who's selected, I've spoken to every faculty member and no one has said that they won't want to come on campus if we're allowed to, and we have these safety precautions in place. But if they did choose, we do have some that do fall into that high risk category. So that, you know, would be a bridge we'd cross when we come to it. We do have limited faculty. You know, adding a new middle school math teacher helps spread that out a little bit, but it still means we have one math teacher teaching 7th grade math. We have one, you know, high school English teacher teaching 4 different preps. So, you know, if someone chooses to stay home, that may change the way that program can be offered. There's a question in there about building community and providing socialization outside of academics. That is the idea, and hopefully those clubs and activities and increase in high school electives would occur, whether it's while they're on campus in a hybrid model or if we're all distance learning kind of during that open outside time. And not open outside time, but the office hours or intervention time. So we are definitely thinking about that and understanding that's important. We do know that adolescents are social beings, and that is what is most important, and that is what they're looking forward to. I know that the just little things like movie nights that the ASB helped put on and the talent show that was done in the spring were fan favorites. So we're hoping definitely to continue those and encourage our students and to continue those activities. The safety procedures are long. Well, I'm going to address, there's a question real quick about switching between the models. Yes, you can start hybrid. If we go hybrid and go back to distance, or start distance and then bring into hybrid, it is flexible for students to move back and forth. That's the way it's designed. So the safety procedures, the first one is going to be the wellness checks when students come on campus. Not just questions and visual, but also temperature checking is the standard right now. All students and staff are going to wear masks when on campus. You know, when they're not inside and they're outside and they're well distanced, the mask can be dropped, things like that. Obviously, they won't be wearing them when they're eating, and they can pull them down to take drinks of water throughout the day. But it will be a requirement, and that's something that in the webinar I went to today, based on all this, they talked a lot about was the masks and things like that. And if, you know, there are exemptions that are available, medical exemptions, but even then, you know, encouraging or finding face shields for people to wear, seeing if teachers are comfortable wearing face shields, but it will be masks. Limiting our visitors and volunteers that come on campus, making sure that we keep our cohort small, and that's just limiting exposure, not just for our students, but also for people, for the community. Anyone is going to go through that wellness check. And then we'll also be providing information about when to keep students home. You know, and this is the year that if your kid is sick, your kid gets to stay home. If you're staff and you're sick, you get to stay home. And that's just part of it. And then, of course, regular sanitizing and cleaning of facilities and materials. We started back in the end of March collecting materials and sanitation, and now we're starting to get some provided by the state. So we feel that we're pretty well stocked in hand sanitizer. We picked up 5 portable hand washing stations to kind of set up around campus when students come back. And then we've also worked with our custodial staff who has a misting sanitizer. So we will be able to sanitize the rooms and keep things clean. Any questions sort of on those safety procedures? I'm very thankful to Montessori and Redlands for making some very exhaustive safety procedures that they then let me borrow and change words. So thank you, Montessori and Redlands. This is sort of the end of it. This is the guidance from the state. And I see that Sue left, but this was her question at the public comment, was just sort of the guidance. The governor's, like I said in my opening remarks, the governor's statement, is just relaying what the health departments have been saying all along, is that the numbers in the county need to be dropping and you need to be off the watch list before you open. And so that's 14 days. If the schools at the counties don't meet this requirement, then they will have to start the fall with distance learning. Right now, our county does not meet the requirement. So we just have to wait. Our numbers are pretty high above it. In 2 of the categories, there's 5 categories. Our county meets 3 of the categories, but we're not meeting 2 of the categories right now. When we do get to return, these are the 5 basically things that we have to make sure we do. The number 4 is the only one we don't have a plan for right now, is regular testing and dedicated contact tracing. In the webinar today with the state, there's a lot of questions on what kind of support would be provided to schools to do that, because I'm not able to test anyone or much. So we would need that support from the county. So these are kind of things that we'd be waiting for more support from the county. Once we reopen, we can stay open even if the county goes back on the watch list, as long as our school does not reach a 5% infected rate. If we reach a 5% infected rate between staff and students, that means we would need to close. That is a very low number of people for our small population. But those are the rules as they stand now.
What is that, 3 or 4 people or?
5%. It'd be like 10 people, 12 people.
Okay.
Yeah. It's not a lot, because usually it spreads in a cluster, Any sort of questions about the guidance from the state, I'll do my best to answer them.
Since we'll be starting, initially it looks like with the distance model due to where we are right now, will you be looking for the board to authorize switching between models, or how do you envision that playing out, you think?
Well, I think that the first would be the guidance from the state, and I think that that's a conversation for the board, or what direction they want to go in if the numbers start going down in our county and we are able to reopen or have students on campus. I think that that's something that the board can stop, or, when they approve this plan, kind of put it into that motion, however you would like to see that play out. I think that it's important for the board to, either approve this plan or give me feedback, and we can modify the plan, based on feedback that we get between now and the 27th, just so that we have something moving forward that we can lay out and share with the community.
Andrew, I have one question. I understand the 5% rule from the state. So imagine that happens. Do we have any idea what you would have to do to then reopen again? In other words, are those less than 5% for 14 days, or
Yeah, I can't remember the timeline, but they did give a timeline, and it's like a 20-day quarantine for the population. And that was something that they recommended too, is if you're able to do cohorts and then you're able just to quarantine the cohort for 14 days instead of the whole school. And so that, that's part of that contact tracing and testing, getting faculty members tested regularly. And then if you do have, a student or faculty on campus, you're then able to just, whoever they've been in within 16 feet for more than been within 6 feet of somebody for more than 15 minutes, then that would be that contact trace, and then those people would be quarantined. And so, you know, having small cohorts, keeping there together would be able to do that. And that's the good question someone just put in the chat about teachers being with one cohort or multiple. Because we have such a small staff, the teachers would be kind of with multiple cohorts. So keeping that 6 feet of distancing as much as possible would be important for the staff. Yeah, Lacey.
Do you have a timeline on how long it would take you to transition from being to distant learning into the hybrid model? Do you see that happening quickly, or do you need a built-in time for that?
I imagine we could do it in a week. And I think it would be more about giving parents notification and family notification. I'm going to go close my blinds because I'm getting blinded as the sun goes down. I'll be right back. Sorry about that. I kept trying to get in the shadow. No, the plan is set up to be very flexible. And make it possible for, you know, to move back and forth easily. I think the first time we transition, we might want to give ourselves a week just so teachers can kind of prepare. And then, you know, when students come back on campus, there'll be some more orientation that needs to happen and more kind of training on what needs to be done.
I would just say I think I really appreciate the presentation, and also I really think the tool that from this week from your email and the way parents responded is extremely valuable as a component of these decisions. It's really valuable to hear from our community and know what thoughts people have.
Absolutely, and just for the community that's here now, you know, it's not the end of your comments. It's not the end of our planning and moving forward. So, you know, if you have ideas or thoughts, you know, please continue to send them to info@thegroveschool.org, and, you know, we'll pass them along or do our best to include them.
Andrew, I know the 3 plans were up on the website. Is the PowerPoint that you just had up also on the website?
I will put it up there. I'll put the big plan that I shared with the board this afternoon, as well as the PowerPoint. Well, actually, I'll have Mel do it because I still haven't learned how to do it myself.
You don't have to reveal the specifics.
In reading through the comments, you know, there was a pretty wide range of viewpoints there, and it seems like, you know, you're doing a great job of accommodating a lot of that. There was, I remember one comment about people, you know, working outside the home and not being able to provide children with supervision if both parents are working outside the home. Do you have any sense of, you know, what percentage of our population falls into that category, and if anything can be accommodated for them, or?
We have been in communication with that because we do recognize that that's not just, you know, our parent community, that's also our staff as well. You know, how do we provide that missing, you know, piece where the students go to school and then have after school curricular activities and are engaged in something while their parents are at work. And it's definitely a challenge. A lot of it has to do with what are we allowed to offer? You know, are we allowed to offer small groups? Can we have small groups on campus and have students sign up for them? You know, either whether it be intervention, whether it's be doing work on the farm, you know, looking for how can we create that, or even if we can just create a workspace on campus for those students to be in for a few hours during the day. You know, we're having that conversation as well with Montessori and Redlands because they too have staff who are looking for the same kind of thing for their older students. I don't have any answers. It's still a question of what we're going to be allowed to do.
thank you, and good job in putting all this together. I mean, I know this is been a really challenging couple of months trying to get up to speed on the legal aspect and keep up with all the varying demands and things that are coming at you. So
Yeah.
Appreciate your efforts.
Well, thank you. And the good news for us and for me is every school's in the same boat. You know, every school, every district is figuring this out and moving forward. So.
And the bad news is it's ongoing.
It's ongoing. Yeah. Yeah. Everyone
always happening every day, every week.
Yeah. This last week was a lot of big changes, all of us all at once. So.
Are we under any obligation to follow like what Redlands Unified does?
No, we're not under any obligation to follow what Redlands Unified does. Their plan, if they were to go back in person, was basically to have students on campus 4 days a week, and then they were going to set up cameras in the classroom, and so that those students who stayed home and were doing distance learning would just follow along on their computer during regular class time. You know, that's an option. Looking forward, you know, we'd have to get some computers and get some technology. I don't think it's the best way for students who are doing distance learning to learn. So I'd rather have them engaging in live lessons that are designed for distance learning.
You mentioned previously leveraging some of the BYU, is it?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Can you tell us a little more about that?
Yeah, I think that's the next agenda item. I don't want to get ahead of myself.
Apologies.
Sounds like a great segue, unless there are other comments otherwise before we move on. Sounds like there are none. So the next agenda item is to, and we can give Andrew a moment or a few moments to describe this and respond to the previous question, but he is seeking authorization from the board for the head of school to enter into an agreement with BYU Continuing Education for the purposes of providing distance learning content for the school year. So Andrew, if you want to give some context for that.
Yeah, absolutely. So in conversation with the staff, just, you know, this is a new endeavor for them. You know, we have a wonderful, strong staff, but they are not necessarily trained in creating online content for their classes. And also, you know, looking at next year, one of the big part of it will be intervention and catching those students as they start to slide, you know, at the top of the slide, not at the bottom of the slide. So by adopting sort of this outside content, it'll allow teachers to have a little bit more time to focus on that intervention piece and watching those students and providing those extracurriculars and that, you know, that extra stuff that students are looking for, because they won't have to spend as much time planning lessons. This would not become our core curriculum. I know parents have used BYU in the past and currently right now to help their students either get ahead or catch up in credits. We aren't doing the full class. It's the blended model, which allows teachers to pick and choose assignments, as well as use a lot of the resources that come with the curriculum. So it sort of provides a base for teachers to build off of. I think it'll also help provide a lot of that rigor that we're looking for, and not just become, you know, trying to take their in-class and put it up online. It'll give it a little bit more of the, you know, well thought out, well planned distance learning curriculum. And we may start using a lot of it at the beginning and it may fade out at the end. It's affordable as far as the estimates go right now. We'll see what the final total is. But it's definitely not something that's going to break the bank.
Is this middle school and high school?
It is mostly high school classes. They're all UC A through G approved, or actually I take that back. They work with our UC A through G approval that we already have for our classes. There is some middle school level content that teachers will be able to draw.
Is there any commitment? You know, we use it for a month and decide, you know, hear about something that, hey, that something else is better and we want to switch. Is there any limitations in that regard?
We are paying for the year.
Just for 1 year.
Just for 1 year. And it's basically access to the content for 1 year. If we choose not to use it and we stop using it, there's no penalty to us. You know, but we have access to that content for 1 year.
And I'm assuming the content, content matches up with the curriculum that we offer, classes and so forth.
Yeah, in most cases. So the BYU High School Online blended learning model, which is what we're looking at, you know, kind of adopting and using, has a long list of courses. And we basically choose the courses that we want access to, and the teachers will have access to that. So as an example, we have our 11th and 12th grade and 7th and 8th grade, you know, standard English is combined. They have an 11th grade curriculum and a 12th grade curriculum. But going through those assignments, you know, it's sort of a pick and choose which ones you want to use for that, as well as pulling from the creative writing courses and things like that. So, you know, our teachers would have access to all of that curriculum so they can still sort of build their own based on what's best for their students.
And just to clarify a question in the chat, sorry, BYU is Brigham Young University.
It is the Brigham Young University online learning, and they are, you know, as far as offering high school courses for online learning or curriculum, you know, the reviews have them well ranked.
So since the board doesn't really, you know, ultimately get involved in the nitty-gritty of pedagogy, I'm wondering, is this really just a budget approval that we're looking for here?
It is, yeah. It's just a budget approval allowing me to enter into this contract.
Cool.
And
I'm happy to make that if anyone wants, or
what is the cost?
The estimate is $8,500, which, you know, is with the board authorization for the extra spending for COVID expenses. This would go under that. It's not, you know, other programs charge, you know, up to, well, the low level, it's $30 per student, you know, per course. And so when you 30 times 266, you get up pretty fast compared to this, which is just access to the curriculum.
A field question here, but I'm going to ask because someone will ask. BYU is a religiously affiliated school, and we're a public school. Mm-hmm. I assume that it's been reviewed for lack of religious content.
Correct. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, not by me. I did not review all the courses, but it's certainly it is a program that is used across the country, and especially in the Western states. Within public education for credit recovery or to you know, get credits and move ahead.
Understood.
I know one of my sons took the one of those BYU courses while they were going through. It was very helpful.
Oh, they're a good school, no doubt. But just, you know, being a public school, you have to, you know, ask.
I did not see anything that was of a religious nature when they were taking it, but again, I wasn't on the whole time.
Yeah, I would assume so. I just want to be able to answer the question if anyone asks.
So I'll move to accept that under one of the COVID expenses.
I'll second that.
Mark moved and Mike seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? And the motion passes.
Thank you.
Well, we can move forward in our agenda. The next item is the reports. So the chairperson's report. I wonder if you have anything else to say, Andrew. That would be me. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Next. I'm going to save my comments for a committee report. So I'll just move on then to Andrew's head of school.
I don't have any other report other than the reopening plan.
As expected. We don't have a student designated to give a report tonight. I'm not sure if there are any in the audience. But since that is not a designated student, perhaps we should just move forward. But maybe I'll make a point at this juncture. I think we have, over the last few meetings when we've been meeting on Zoom, we've kind of been missing this component, and I'm going to personally take that up over the next series of meetings to try to encourage a student to attend and ensure that we have a student perspective brought into the meeting. Next, PAC PTG report. I'm not sure if we have a report from that tonight.
I did meet with the PTG leadership to kind of review, and this was set up before the July 4th break to review the safety regulations. So I did sit down with the parent advisory committee or the PTG leadership board. But then after the July 4th break is when all the new information came out. So everything changed very quickly. And so we not only discussed the safety, but we also discussed some of the draft plans that were sent out to the whole community.
Okay. Next item is the treasurer's report. The report from the treasurer.
Yeah, the finance committee has not met since our last board meeting, so there hasn't been any updates. Our next finance committee meeting is on the 31st, so that's still 11 days away. Andrew, is there anything other information that you're aware of?
No, just the our ADA is going to be based on our 2019-2020 numbers, which is mostly in line with the budget that the board passed before. So we're still on track for our budget that was passed.
Okay.
I think on the 31st meeting we'll have Connie will have different numbers to share, and we'll update the budget for our August meeting.
Okay. So that's all I have. Thank you.
And I don't expect we have a staff advisory committee report tonight. So I will go forward with the board committee, and I will just start with membership. We held 4 interviews this week with folks who have applied or submitted applications to the board to be for membership. So I feel really encouraged by that. I think those went really well, and I would expect we would have those ready to vote on in August. I think probably our next meeting may be devoted to what we're going to do regarding the plan, but just a general positive feedback there, board members, and I can share that application information with you ahead of that meeting to review. Any other committee reports at this time?
I know that I was on the fundraising committee, and that was headed by Lisa Kensock. So it seems like we may need to reconstitute some of the board committees.
I assume we'll do that in August. We'll sort of once we have new members, and then we can reassign new committees and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds good. Any other committee reports?
The long range planning committee, we met last week, I believe it was. We're still moving forward, working with the city. We did get a new, what was it, 2-year contract, Andrew?
Well, it's the lease was amended in that past city council back in July. I want to say July 7th. And basically it allows us to put in gates and fences on the middle school campus, as well as operate a Saturday farmers market. Other than that, it's the same lease, and I believe that lease expires in 2025.
So that should be it.
Okay. Any individual board member reports? Okay. Well, with that, before we vote to adjourn, I just want to say one more time, thank you to the community members who joined us tonight. This has been a wonderful conversation, and you are welcome every meeting to come and be part of these discussions. We really appreciate that, and really appreciate your input and questions tonight as we all are navigating new territory with this school year coming up. I guess any other feedback from the board before we, or whoever's ready to make them, if not, whoever's ready to move to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Hey, Trevor.
Not to sound eager, but you know.
Trevor moved and Mark seconded. Any discussion? Probably not. All in favor? All opposed? Looks like the motion passed, and we are adjourned at 7:28 p.m.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
All right. I'm going to end the meeting for all of us. I will hope to
I
see.
have a question, Andrew.
Oh, did you have a question, Lisa?
The new teacher's name. I was not typing fast enough to get it.
I will send them to you right now, just so I make sure I get the spelling correct.
Okay, and that's science?
Physics was
Physics.
Victoria. Victoria is spelled as you would spell Victoria, Victoria. But the last name I'm not 100% sure on.
Okay.
Yeah, she's a part-time physics.
Okay.
And then Mark Delaney.
Got that.
Yeah, he's 7th grade math and geometry.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Okay. All right, thank you.